Yes, Steve, got dinner fáilte rascadí chlorella on show air on Cluiche lumsa Seamus Brady. Hello everyone, welcome back to another show here on Cluiche with me, Seamus Brady, your host. I'm joined once again by Matthew Hurley, the Gaelic Statsman. It's a bit of a late one today. We're starting at 10 p.m. We'll have this wrapped up by 11 p.m. because we've all got to get a good sleep as well. Matthew, thanks for jumping on the show. Only a weekend of hurling action apart from, of course, the O'Connor Cup final, which we'll dive into. But a weekend where league action anyway was only on the small ball. How did you find it?
Yeah, it was decent enough, and thanks for having me on again, Seamus. Yeah, it was a decent weekend. In fairness, tipping Limerick was a good game last night. Even Wexford Waterford today. Clare Kilkenny, really good win from Clare. And Cork scored 5 goals this week, so really good showing, albeit it was against Offaly, but very good performance from the lads nonetheless. And even good games at the Camogie. Watched the Tipperary Cork game yesterday. Really good game of ball there. Emer Bra was outstanding and Tip deserved their win in that game. And of course, the O'Connor Cup, brilliant win for DCU. And obviously, there was a story for AU Sligo as well, who played for a player who sadly passed away. I think it was Ella, who was named number 2 on the match play programme. And they played for her, and that was a brilliant moment as well this week. So, yeah, a lot to delve into and looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, certainly well put. We will start at DCU retaining their O'Connor Cup. So this is kind of the GNU section, if you like. DCU won 216 to 214, and this game was played in MTU Cork. A real dramatic affair and a star-studded DCU lineup, it's safe to say. I mean, you have the likes of Kate Kenny in there. She actually led the way for the scoring for DCU in this game. She top scored. Emma Duggan hit 3 points. Like, there was a lot of scorers around this game. It took extra time. DCU beat UCC in what was a thoroughly enjoyable contest. But DCU come out on top.
Yeah, for the second time in a row. And last year was very, very comprehensive against UL, but this year he had to do it the hard way, really. And I thought when UCC scored that goal through Mary O'Connell, which was an absolute fluke, by the way, I don't know how it ended up in the back of the net. But as soon as that happens, I thought UCC were going to go on and win it. But fair play to Kay Kenny, and more so as well to Maria Cannon from Mayo, coming off the bench and scoring 3 points, was an outstanding performance from her. And yeah, it was Kerry Owens that got the ultimate winning goal, if you like, from Dublin. So really good performance from her. And it was kind of strange what UCC did at the end, though. They were 3 points down, minute left in injury time. Ellie Jack has the ball. Surely this is the time to go for goal. They went for the point. They hoped they'd win the next kick out. They didn't do so. DCU win the game. So it was kind of questionable from UCC's standpoint there. There were some good performances from UCC in this game too. Abigail Ring scoring 4 points with an outstanding display. You've Eddie Jack as well. Aoife Healy at centre back was colossal. Colossal effort from her. And yeah, really good win for DCU. And it's hard to do the back to back, but DCU proved it's not that hard. So really good performance from them. And Kay Kenny, what a way to sign her off. She's going down to Australian roots football now. And to score 1-3 in the final doesn't get much better than that.
It certainly doesn't. And like as I said, she led the way. She scored 1-3. Like Emma Duggan chipped in with 3 points. Chloe Darby of Dublin with 2. Kerry Owens with the other goal. Stars to the DCU team achieving an absolutely incredible feat, winning back-to-back O'Connor Cups. It's an absolutely outstanding achievement. And to do it in such dramatic fashion after extra time, UCC pushing them late at the end, they hold on. And the scenes that I seen, credit to Jerome Quinn for capturing it. Just absolutely awesome. Like the pure elation in them. And as you said, it's a perfect note for Kay Kenny to go down to Australia on. And she's one of 36 Irish players going to the AFLW for next season, which is an absolutely incredible feat in itself. Obviously, as well, another thing that we had that I just noticed over the weekend, which does really, really annoy me, and I'm going to give us, a timer on this because me and you can go on about this all night long, is I noticed over the weekend the amount of counties that had 2 home fixtures in the hurling and camogie yet didn't do double headers. Why on earth doesn't the GAA or Gaelic games, if you want to say, LGFA, Camogie, everybody in, why do we not do more double headers? We seem to be so against it. Like Mayo and Dublin is one that I love to bring up. Mayo and Dublin played each other in the GAA and the LGFA, both on the same day, in Mayo at different times as well. So it wasn't a timing issue. They played one in Ballina and one in McHale Park for no reason. It's disrespectful to the players. It's disrespectful to fans. And it's just bad for business. It's bad for promotion. If you want to get more eyes on hurling, it's not bad to mix it with the football. If you want to get more eyes on football, it's not bad to mix it with the hurling. It's something that I cannot understand why everybody doesn't just say it would be easier to put them on in the same venue and it would be better for business to put them on in the same venue. Yet, even something that makes such sense, we're not doing.
And a perfect example this week, there was a big game in the Camogie League and a big game in the Hurling League. You had Galway up against Kilkenny in Galway, by the way, and you had Galway against Dublin today in Galway. Why couldn't they put that as a doubleheader? Yeah. And this is Galway and Kilkenny, who were up there, were contending for All-Irelands as well, and it makes it even more baffling, to be honest with you. And what is even more baffling in its own right, like I did 3 games in stats yesterday, and all 3 of them were in Cork. But guess what, Seamus? All of them were in different venues. You had
That is ridiculous.
You had Parky Ring for the Cork and Tipperary game. You had MTU Cork for the O'Connor Cup final, and you had Páirc Uí Chaoimh for Limerick and Tip.
Is this not the same Cork that's been banging on about how they need to pay off the debts on Páirc Uí Chaoimh? A triple header in Páirc Uí Chaoimh would bring all the receipts into Páirc Uí Chaoimh. Like, am I missing something?
To be fair, the O'Connor Cup was scheduled for MTU Cork and they had a right to do that. But why couldn't Cork and Tipperary and Limerick and Tip be a double header? And what's more, both of them were on Cork. Both of them involved Tipperary.
Mm-hmm.
It's just mad. It really is. But then again, did the Camogie wanted earlier? I was hearing that Caught Van was actually getting married that day and the players wanted to get back for the wedding. So maybe that was the case too. But it is absolutely scandalous when you think about it from weeks gone by. Even I think there was a big example in Cork last week. You Cork against Mayo in the LGFA in the Páirc Uí Chaoimh 4G pitch. The next day, you Cork and Kildare in the Alliance Football League on the main pitch.
But this is the other thing, man, is that double headers work. I distinctly remember 2011, Dublin put double headers on in Croke Park. They put the hurlers on first and they put the footballers on second throughout the Alliance League. And I remember that because I remember that was the first time I'd really gone to watch Dublin hurling live, because hurling in Dublin wasn't as big at the start of the 2010s. Even as it is now, it wasn't as big. And I remember then 2011, Dublin have all those eyes on them during the league. They put in good performances. Then they get to the All-Ireland hurling semi-final in 2011, and there's a big crowd that turn up from Dublin. And then 2013, 2 years later, we win Leinster, and all the fans turn up. That's not a coincidence. That's because it was put in front of our eyes, and we liked what we saw. That whole thing of like, if you can't see it, you can't. If she can't see it, you can't be it. The 2020 campaign, a brilliant campaign. That highlighted just how important it is to have it in front of people. Double headers are the way to do that. And when I say disrespectful to fans, it is disrespectful to fans. Because if I'm a fan that is travelling to follow Dublin and I want to watch Dublin play, but I can't really decide if I want to go and watch the men play or the women play, it would be fantastic for me as a fan, or for you as a fan, or for anyone as a fan, if the GA go, oh, well, don't worry, they're on in the same venue. Like, that would be awesome for the fans. But instead, they're like, no, if you want to watch the other one, you have to drive an hour and a half to go and watch it. Like, I just find that disrespectful to everyone involved, to the players. Because what if you're a player who has friends on the other team? Like, let's not pretend that the Dublin ladies footballers aren't friends with the male footballers. Of course they are. And that happens in every county. So, of course, if they were told, oh, after our game's finished, let's stay and watch, the other game. If the men, if like Dublin played Galway in the men's hurling, and then we're told, oh, the Camogie players are coming on after, let's stay and watch. And of course they would. It's just disrespectful across the board, man. It does my head in.
The thing is, and that is a good point, to be fair, but I was part of this example, I think, at Páirc Uí Chaoimh one year. I think Cork and Clare were playing in hurling in the Alliance Hurling League and football in Division 2, I think 2 seasons ago. and they put the hurling first and the football second. And there was a huge crowd for the hurling. There was a manageable crowd there. But then when the football came on, a lot of Clare Cork fans went up and left, basically because they said football was a waste of time. That's just the attitude in Munster. So I would fear, actually, no disrespect to the Camogie now, but I would fear, if that is the case, that people, once the hurling is over for Galway Dublin, they'll just leave once Galway Kilkenny comes on the Camogie. It's wrong, but that would be people's point of views over this. And there was loads of examples this week. Like, I remember distinctly, Waterford-Wexford was on the hurling today. Waterford were playing Clare in Fraher Field the day before. Like, it just, it boggles the mind. It really does. And
again,
I think, and there's an example, actually, and another one was Cork. It was before COVID. Cork were playing against Westmeath in the LGFA League in Division 1, when Westmeath were in Division 1, and Cork won and everything like that. And the likes of Orla Finn, Orla Farmer, they all absolutely love playing in the Páirc Uí Chaoimh turf. Then afterwards, the Cork footballers, the men's footballers, played against Offaly in a Division 3 tie. I don't know why the Cork footballers were down there anyway, but that was a good plan for Cork to have both games in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. That was before COVID. Then COVID hit, and it's almost like we've forgotten it now.
Yeah.
Like, it's ridiculous. It really is. And I remember, actually, last year, I think one of a few examples where this happened. I think Dublin were playing against Cork in the LGFA, and then they had a men's football game against, I think it was Mayo 2 seasons ago, the year he went down, Seamus, I think it was. And that was brilliant. It was brilliant for them players to play in Croke Park, to have the opportunity to play there. And yet, why can't they do it more often? I'm just absolutely stuck. And it boggles the mind that some of these games were the same county and nearly the exact same time within a day's time span. But yet, common sense doesn't prevail. Remember, me and you went on my podcast last year. This wasn't about LGFA Camogie. This was about football and hurling. Kildare and Derry were playing each other on the same day, but they put the football in Newbridge, and they put the hurling in Owen Beg in Derry.
Yeah.
that just epitomises everything wrong with the J and double headers and everything like that. Because that was a perfect opportunity to have a double header, two of the same counties in the same venue, but they didn't do it. And I just wonder,
because on top of that as well, it's like, if you were to say to me, "Oh, we're doing it because we're not putting it as a double header because we have something else on the pitch," well, that's bollocks. We're not because half the time the pitches aren't being used before the game takes place. Second thing, oh well, we need gate receipts for the no, because it comes into the county board. That's where it comes in, so you can still take care of that other one. And actually, it would be easier for staff because you only need to staff one facility. And it would be more respectful, say in the Derry versus Kildare scenario, it's more respectful to the people who work with the Kildare County Board and with the Kildare media team to put the games on in Owen Beg, because then they don't need to split. They don't need one of them to go to Owen Beg and one of them to stay in Kildare. They can both go because both games are on there. It's just, it's better for promotion. It's more respectful to everybody involved, players, fans, coaches, media, everything. It's more respectful to them. Third thing, it's just a better spectacle. It's a better day out. It's going to draw more crowds if it's a double header. But the only thing standing in the way is that they're different organizations and they won't agree to it. And when it comes to your point, which is a very good point, by the way, of what would there be scenarios where people would leave if one game was first and one game was second, I think you need to look at the situation and go, okay, what game is primarily bringing the crowd? What's the main event, if you like? And make sure that that's the game that's on last. Because at the time that Dublin did that in 2011, they did the Spring Series. That's what it was called. Where they sold tickets as a bunch that you could buy, 4 double-header tickets. My dad and me bought them. And we went to the games. Well, my dad bought it for me. I was 10 years old at the time. But as in, Dublin hurling was not anywhere near as popular as the football. Not a chance. So the football was always on second. And that was the main event. But what happened was a lot of dubs were showing up with, 20 minutes to go in the hurling. and we were beating Tipperary, or we were putting it up to Kilkenny, and people were going, oh, we're actually not bad at the hurling this. This is a pretty good game to watch. I might come next time. That's what, like, this is business 101 here, and we're letting politics of separate organizations who won't agree to certain times, and this is why the integration needs to happen by 2027 at the very latest, and hopefully then we will see common sense and do as much double headers as possible. You talk, as Don Logue said, you talk about wanting to grow the game. Double headers is such an obvious step forward.
And what you mentioned there with media and everything like that, going to the same game at the same date, everything like that, especially for hurling and football happening on the same weekend, especially when the both teams in the county, let's just say Offaly, for example, if both the Offaly footballers and the Offaly hurlers have home advantage in their respective games, that should be a double header. But it doesn't seem to be happening more often this year. Why? I'm not sure. And even Derek Lynch, a Clare FM journalist, he's a very good journalist on Twitter. Check him out if you haven't already. He actually mentioned that the NGFA, I think it was Sligo and Clare, were playing each other in men's and ladies on the same weekend, I think it was. And the ladies was on in somewhere like Ennis-Timon or somewhere like that in Clare, and the men was on in Ennis on the same day.
Yeah.
It's just laughable.
It comes down to they just don't want to do it for whatever reason. Look, anyway, we've gone way above the time, but the message from us is clear. Start making double headers because they'd be great for everything. Fans, players, media, promotion, everything across the board. Nobody misses out as a result of this. Anyway, one thing that was nice to see back was, of course, the Masters. The first Masters games played since pre-COVID. Ireland played Australia in the Masters 2024. I was delighted to cover this with balls.ie. It was an absolutely incredible day. And Ireland had a very successful day across the board. At 50s level, Ireland won 63-9. In the men's 50s, that was. In the men's over 40s, Ireland won 65-23. And in the ladies' Masters, Ireland won 65-9. And two big things. That's the first ever edition of the female Masters games, Ireland against Australia. That's the first ever over 50s male game of Ireland v Australia at the Masters level. So a real year of progress. It fell on International Women's Weekend as well. It was a day after International Women's Day. So it really, really felt like, a massive day. That it was the first ever female Masters game between Ireland and Australia. A lot of the players spoke very eloquently about how it's an amazing opportunity for them to represent their country at an age where they all thought that they would be retired. And I really, really enjoyed being there. It was a lovely atmosphere. And hey, Ireland got the 3 wins. Roll on test 2.
Yeah, exactly. And worth noting as well, it was the day before Mother's Day as well. So yeah. It's extra special, it really is, that happened this weekend. And fair play to anybody that played in these games. And whenever Ireland and Australia come up against each other, it's going to be absolutely fire in many ways. Like I remember, I think, I don't know, is this different to the Masters, but the International Rules Series, remember that, where Ireland would have beat Australia, and you'd have Aidan O'Shea, Conor McManus, even Zach Toohey coming back to play for Ireland. And then in the Australian side, you have Nat Fife, who was a brilliant player in that series, I remember distinctly. And you'd want those sorts of series to come back, because it just spreads the Gaelic games landscape throughout the globe, and that's what we want. I know Uganda are doing a lot of good work. You have New York obviously winning against Leitrim last year. London have done some brilliant work under Michael Maher and the Alliance League as well. But to have Ireland and Australia games, it just makes it extra special. And that you were there as well, Seamus, it must have been a brilliant event. But yeah, it must have been an absolutely special event. But one question, why was it on in Mayo of all places?
Oh, this is what I was saying. I was saying this to you off air. I had to drive 2.5 hours out and 2.5 hours back to make this game. In my personal opinion, it was slightly confusing as to why the game wasn't pushed to be played in Dublin. I mean, these Australian stars have literally flown across the world and landed in Dublin, and again played in Mayo, like the other side of the country, a 2.5 hour drive away on a bus. What, you telling me Parnell Park, DCU Sports Ground, Trinity Sports Ground, UCD Sports Grounds, the 93 GAA clubs in Dublin? But they were all busy, were they? All busy. Okay, fair. Yeah, makes sense. Like, what, we're going to play it now? The other side of the country. Like, again, booking issues. Like, as in issues with scheduling events and booking places. Like, I was slightly confused, and I understand the people who are organising it, that they understand more about the logistics of planning it than I do. I fully hold my hands up to that. I don't know what it took to make this event happen. And believe me, the people that I met organising this event were absolutely like fantastic people. Real good people behind this event. And I couldn't have been more welcomed. I absolutely adored that day. It was, a fantastic day. And I'm really looking forward to test 2. But you'd argue, was certain facilities not made available to them in Dublin? And if so, then why? But look, the reality is it was a brilliant day. Roll on test 2. Test 2, for anybody who wants to go watch it, it's on in Cavan. But if not, keep an eye out for any media stuff that will be done about it. I'm sure I'll be up there again covering it. So keep an eye out for it. Anyway, now we'll dive in with the hurling. The Alliance Hurling Leagues took place over this weekend as well. We've gone through the GAA news. Let's start off with Division 1A's round 4. And to celebrate you making another appearance on the pod, of course, we're going to talk about this one first. Offaly 16 points, Cork 5 goals and 28 points. This game was on in O'Connor Park as well. You said when we were talking about this game that it wasn't as cut and dry as maybe you would have thought at the start of the year, but you said you would expect Cork to win this game. By God, they won this game. Hat-trick by Alan Connolly returning to the side. Dara Fitzgibbon and Brian Hayes with the other goals in a 27-point Rebel victory.
Yeah, geez. I'm flattered that you started with this game, actually, Seamus, when you look at the other 2 games with the relevance that they have. But yeah, it was a good win. It was a really good win for Cork. And as you took the words out of my mouth there, I expected Cork to win this game because we're better than Offaly and all that. But I expected it to be a lot closer than it was. Way closer, because Offaly performed really well in the last 2 games. And to be honest, you have to give credit to Cork for that, for just blitzing Offaly from the start of this one. Like, they were way ahead at half-time, and they kept continuing to batter down the door for them. And we talked about Cork needing goal scorers and needing forwards to start. Alan Connolly put up his hand to the outstanding performance with 3 goals and a point. And he's done this for his club, Blackrock. He did it for Cork when he was fit. He just got an unfortunate injury last year. Hopefully he'll be fit enough for the championship now. And he is a goal getter, and we need him in the team. He's a really good player. And this was a Cork team without Patrick Horgan, and we scored 5 goals and 28 points. Like, it's a good day's work when that happens. And even Dara Fitzgibbon and Brian Hayes, you mentioned, coming off the bench. Shane Kingston came off the bench and got 4 points. Even Robbie Cotter got a run out today. So, yeah, it was all positives. Really all positives from a Cork point of view. And to score that much in a ground like Tullamore, I think it's a brilliant step for the Cork team. And fair play to the players. In fairness to them, Adam Screedy didn't have much luck, let's just say. Owen Cahill took more to score mantle for Offaly and David Nally in midfield, but they were totally outclassed, Offaly, unfortunately. And maybe this was kind of a step too far for them. The next game now that they have is Clare, and look at Clare now today. I think that could be a nasty game as well. But look, I said it about Offaly. Their main aim is the Joe McDonagh Cup. They'll aim towards that. They definitely have the players to go on and win it. But it is Pat Ryan's team day. And yeah, well done to Cork for winning the game. And yeah, I didn't expect it to be that much. And it does actually boost Cork's chances of finishing in the top 3 now, or potentially a semi-final in the Alliance League. But to be fair, like, maybe the semi-final missing out of it is a good thing for Cork, because we'd have these good performances against Offaly, hopefully against Wexford now, and then go into the Munster Championship, basically, with a bit of a rest. And then we'll go after Limerick, we'll go after Clare and stuff like that. And it is all positive, so it really is. So, brilliant win for Cork. But for Offaly, it's unfortunate, but look, they just came up against the better team.
Yeah, and it's the other thing as well is the games that Cork actually lost. I didn't leave those games thinking, God, Cork are way off. Like, I thought, Cork had periods of those games where they dominated, so they're not, a million miles off Clare, and they're not a million miles off Kilkenny, which obviously we'll get into their clash now in a second. For Offaly, you kind of felt like a result like this was coming at some point. Any team that seems to get promoted in Division 1 to Division 1, your Offaly's, your Westmeaths, your Laoises, your Antrims, your Dublins now. This year, we got one off Limerick, and we got one off Tipperary as well, to be fair. Like, if you're not on the level with these teams, you usually are in line for a pretty bad beating at some point. And Offaly had done really well to kind of avoid it against Kilkenny and to avoid it against Wexford as well, and Waterford. But look, Cork just had their number. And it's interesting to see it without Horgan. Like, I think sometimes Horgan is like, he's still an amazing hurler, but it's like sometimes when he's on the pitch, Cork give everything to him and he becomes their obvious attacking point. But when he's not there, it's like they run it elsewhere. And you could argue like they might run this now in their next game against Wexford and see how it takes them, and just have options going into the championship. Because the reality is, as good as Patrick Horgan is, they haven't managed to, take that extra step in the last couple of years. So if you do what you always do, you get what you always got. Isn't that what I was told? So yeah, it'd be interesting to see, especially when you see Clare shaking things up, going with different players, when you see Tipperary shaking things up, going with different players. Cork also need to have a plan B in their back pocket as well, should Patrick Horgan get injured, etc. Now we will move on to the next game. Clare and Kilkenny met at Cusack Park. It finished Clare 19 points, Kilkenny 16 points. We have a comment in here from Garrod Ogo Grecon. He says, something that worries me from a Clare perspective so far in this league is that we're not scoring goals. Our only goal in the league so far has been from Shane Amori. I mean, that is a good point. While Clare, yes, have been flying in the league, they haven't actually been scoring that many goals. But 19 points to 16, a late rally of 3 Clare points in a row got this win. They're still, pretty much flawless in their league campaign so far.
Yeah, it was crucial for Clare to get the win because of mentality, and we said that during the week on your podcast that Clare needed to beat Kilkenny, and they did so today. Like, it looked like for a while they were going to get a draw. TJ Reid was dragging Kilkenny back into it time and time again, but then Clare went up a gear and they got the win in the end. And just to follow on to that comment, actually, they had one goal chance, I think, today, David Fitzgerald, which was actually tipped over the bar by Owen Murphy. Brilliant save. That was the only chance for a goal that Clare had today, which was a bit concerning. But then again, Clare did have good performers, like Aidan McCarthy did well in the freeze. What I would say for the freeze, it was a bit worrying with Mark Rogers. They missed the first 2, which were kind of easy chances. And he is a brilliant player, but he just had an off day today. But even Tony Kelly isn't perfect under freeze. I think if Clare are to go to the next level, they need to have a designated free taker. And I think Aidan McCarthy is probably the best man for it. Whether they'll have him for the championship now on freeze, I'm not sure. But I think Clare need to stick with him for the championship now, going further, and then going on further than that. But even it was a problem last year. I think Mark Rogers missed a few frees as well. Tony Kelly missed a few frees. So they need to brush up on that problem before they can get to Limerick's level and all that. But I do think the win today is so vital. Because having said that against Kilkenny as well, Kilkenny only scored 7 points from play today. So that is a positive for Clare to take forward, in fairness to them. Like, they were really, really reliant on TJ Reid freeze, and TJ didn't score anything from play either. Didn't really test the ball from play. You had John Donnelly coming on again, 3 points, Paddy Deegan. But other than that, Kilkenny were very disappointing, I have to say. Keith Smith had a good few minutes under his belt for Clare. Peter Duggan, few flashes of brilliance, and shows that he's still one of the top players in the country. And David Fitzgerald, like, ever since 2022, this guy has been one of Clare's best players, no doubt about it. And he's moved into the wing forward position, and he's done absolutely outstanding in that for Clare. Conor Lean had a good performance as well, and so did Dermot Ryan. So, yeah, good positives for Clare. Maybe a small negative on the goal chances and the free taking. But other than that, if they brush up on that, and once they have Tony Kelly, let's not forget, they have Tony Kelly, Shane O'Donnell, and Ryan Taylor to come back. So once they come back into the team, they're going to be strong this year. And to beat Kilkenny, I know it's only the league, I think it's a massive step for them in their development too.
It's big because it just puts into your mindset that you actually can beat this team, that they don't have something over you, that you can't beat them. And that's massively important. That's worth those inches. And you're right, Clare, it has been an Achilles heel for them. Like over the last few years, I'd say Rogers, Duggan, Tony Kelly, I'd say they hit Aidan McCarthy as well. I say they hit like Clare as a unit over the last few years. If they get 10 frees, I say they convert 7 of them, whereas Limerick convert 9 of them. and those are just an inch difference. Gillan and Burns, if it's within shooting range, they score. Most of the time they score. And that's why Clare need to, close the gaps on the things that they have lost out to Limerick on. The goals I wouldn't be too concerned about. I think if Shane O'Donnell returns, he's a massive goal getter for them. You got like Aaron Shanahan is another goal getter. We haven't seen much of him yet. Like Tony Kelly as well, obviously does everything for Clare, but he also pops up with goals now and then. Like Clare definitely aren't a team that struggle to score goals. I would be slightly concerned if they don't score goals against Offaly now, especially having seen Cork do it. But yeah, it definitely is something to keep your eye on. Another thing that I was keeping the eye on as well, especially we were talking about this on the preview show, was how Waterford would get on against Wexford. They lost. Wexford beat Waterford 223 to 123 at Walsh Park, and again, it was the third quarter that let Waterford down. It was the third quarter when Seamus Casey got the goal, Wexford's second goal in the 52nd minute. Wexford then led by 219 to 19 points. So at half time, it was relatively even. Wexford came out, dominated the third quarter, went 6 points ahead. Waterford tried fight back, too late. Wexford win this game. You imagine Davy Fitz to be a fly on the wall in that dressing room when he sees that. I mean, I'd say it would have been not exactly PG, the language.
Exactly, and what I will say about this, Seamus, I was right. I said Wexford will win the game. It's unusual to get a prediction, so I have to put my hand up there. But it looked like Waterford were the much better team in the first half. They were nearly hitting everything over the bar. 16 points in any half is outstanding, in fairness. And Conor Horan's goal, it was almost like, you don't want to compare it to Kildare last week against Cork. They were absolutely brilliant in the first half. They needed a win. But then they do something stupid in conceding a goal. It was Tommy Walsh for Cork last week, and it was Conor Horan for Wexford today. So, you can't, if you're losing games, you cannot concede goals when you're on top. And Waterford did that exactly. And even at the start of the third quarter, and Davey will say it in the dressing room once again. He didn't say it in the post-match interview today, but he will no doubt say in the dressing room the effing third quarter. And it's the same story for Waterford. You look at. Even the goal was very, very suspect. In fairness, Seamus Casey bends the ball in. Does Simon Donoghue get a touch? I'll say it outright, Seamus. I think he gets a touch on the ball, and that deflects it into the back of the net. Most people will think differently, but it's down to interpretation. But yeah, it was a crucial goal to get Wexford back into it. But what I will say, a brilliant save by Mark Fanning straight afterwards. Neil Montgomery went straight down the other end. Could have had it in the back of the net. Saved by Mark Fanning. Montgomery eventually puts it over the bar, but that could have been a goal. And to be honest, if it wasn't for Wexford passing around the back for Patrick Fitzgerald's goal, they could have won this at a canter. So that worry for Waterford, it really is this game. Even 58% shot accuracy isn't really good enough. And we looked at Wexford shot accuracy last season. I think it was about 30 or 40% against Dublin in Croke Park. That game was absolutely horrendous from a Wexford point of view. Today, it was 64%. You could see that Keith Rossiter, and they haven't lost the game. Keith Rossiter is getting something into these players. I read something on Wexford Weekly on Twitter, the amount of players they're missing. Off the top of my head, you have Lee Chin, Conor McDonald, Jack O'Connor, Oisin Foley, Liam McGovern, and there's plenty more as well.
Evan Foley, Paddy Foley.
Dermot O'Keefe. That's incredible in fairness. And Keith Rossiter, he's getting something out of these players. And that's
the thing that's worrying for Waterford, man. When you look at it, who Clare have to come back, Tony Kelly, Ryan Taylor, Shane O'Donnell. You look at who Limerick haven't used yet, Peter Casey, Aaron Gillan was back in today. We'll get on to that. But I remember watching Limerick in Croke Park against Dublin thinking they don't have Cian Lynch, they don't have Aaron Gillan, they don't have Declan Hannon, and they're smoking us. Waterford don't look like they have that much of a level to go up on. Austin Gleeson's not coming back. Shane McNulty's not coming back. Conor Gleeson's not coming back. Stephen O'Keefe, Porrick Mahoney, Philip Mahoney, Barry Coughlin, they're all not playing this year. So this is what I'm saying, is that's why I feel like Davy's back is against the wall, because I'm like, if you are playing your best hand in these games and you're losing to teams that are nowhere near full strength, I don't know how you get out of Munster.
Yeah, it's a worrying thing, and actually worth noting, one of Waterford's most skillful players actually came onto the pitch today, Desi Hutchinson, and they still couldn't win. So, like, there's something seriously wrong, and even, like, the story should be about Wexford, but we have to talk about Waterford as well, what a mess it is at the moment. It just looks like the players just freeze once the third quarter comes. It's something weird that just happens, and the players are just not clued in. I don't know what it is about this team. Like, there is some good players, like Patrick Fitzgerald, Shane Bennett, Jamie Barron, Jack Prendergast, all had decent games today. Jamie Barron scored 4 points and was brilliant around the middle. But it's just not enough. And I don't know what it is with Waterford at this present moment in time. They don't look like, at times, they don't look like they're playing for Davy. And it's just worrying. It's worrying at this point. But take it back to Wexford, because they deserve, I know Waterford, we talk about them being in disarray, but Wexford deserve a lot of credit. Look at them last year. They were an absolute mess. They lost to Westmeath in the Leinster Championship and were this close to going to the Joe McDonagh Cup. But Keith Rossiter's come in. He's changed the dynamic completely. Keane Byrne had an outstanding performance today. 5 points from play. You had Seamus Casey, who isn't normally on the Wexford team, scores 9 points. Conor Hearn, as I mentioned, had a good performance. Corey Byrne Dunbar even came on and did a wreck. This isn't like Ross Banville wasn't on the panel either. That's another player that has to come back to the team. So Wexford have a lot of players to come back, and then players are putting their hands up for selection. And this is without their 2 main men over the last 2 seasons in Conor McDonald and Lee Chin, and even Jordan O'Keefe, who got an All-Star in 2019. Like, Wexford are moving along really, really nicely at the moment. That I will say, like, Leinster was almost like a closed shop over the last few seasons with Galway and Kilkenny. Could Wexford be a dark horse this season? By the looks of things, the way they're performing at the moment, they look good at the moment. I have to say, Seamus, I've been really, really impressed with them.
No, so have I. And the fact is, like, they've got Keith Rossiter in, and, like, you know, my take on that, like, he's a Wexford man. He's a former Wexford hurler who looks like he is locked in and loaded and ready to give this a fair crack, a fair 3, 4, 5 years. And as you mentioned, he has the players like Keane Byrne, Ross Banville, Niall Murphy as well as another one, like Oisin Foley, like this young generation of Wexford hurlers that he could spearhead on towards competing, especially for Leinster Championships. It's definitely something to keep an eye on. For Waterford, look, I'm glad that Davy didn't come out and do another speech like he did last time, because then it would have been, I feel like, a bit annoying to the Waterford players. Because if I was on that Waterford team and your manager's doing post-match interviews where you're actually saying, like, oh, it's this and this, you'd feel like, is it the Davy show here? Like what's going on here? Like, we're trying to play hurling here. Stop dragging all this media attention on us. Stop now pointing out third quarters, because then casual hurling fans who didn't even know that Waterford struggle in third quarters, then they were watching out to see how they got on in the third quarter this time. Like, do you know what I mean? Which ramps the pressure up more on your players, because people are going to talk about it if you make the same mistake again this time. So I'm glad that he didn't. I'm glad that he just took the loss. It's not the end of the world. Move on to the next game and try and get results together again. Waterford have the players. There's no doubt in my mind. The team that everybody was tipping as Limerick's direct competitors 2 years ago in 2022, they're not bad hurlers. They just need to be pulled in the right direction, the way that Keith Rossiter seems to be pulling Wexford in the right direction, the way that Pat Ryan is pulling Cork, the way that Brian Lohan is pulling Clare. There's the talent in those lads. They need the right person to get the tune out of them. Davy still could be that man, but right now I probably wouldn't put my life on it. But anyway, we have the Alliance Hurling League's Division 1B Round 4, and that started off with an entertaining game that was on last night. Limerick and Tipperary at Porky Creeva finished Limerick 26 points, Tipperary 316. Limerick put the burners on in the second half to get this victory. I mean, they really, really stood up in the second half. Tipperary led 1-7 to 9 points at halftime, but then the second half, Limerick absolutely roared into it. Galan finished with 8 points, O'Dowlig with 3, Burns with 3, Colin Coughlin, Garrod Hegarty and Keane Lynch all with 2 points each. They soared into the second half. They hit 17 points in the second half. And even though Tipperary got 3 goals from Jake Morris, from Patrick Bonnermar and from Jason Ford, wasn't enough. And Limerick had a 1-point victory at Porky Quiv.
And 2 amazing stats from the second half alone for this Limerick team. All 4 subs that came on for them scored, which is unheard of. It really is, in fairness. And in the second half alone, they had a 71% shot accuracy. It's monstrous. It really is. And you have this feeling that this Limerick team is edging closer and closer and closer to their full strength. And this is without the likes of Declan Hannon at centre back. And Colin O'Neill did struggle in that role, and he was always going to struggle. But John Coyle's trying to make a plan there. He still has Coyle Hayes to come back to the team as well. So the Limerick are in a really, really good place. You know my thoughts on them. They're an unbelievable team. They're definitely going to go for the Drive for 5 this season. And you look at Donegal O'Dowlig, another player to come into it. There was question marks about him, considering he's faced against, no disrespect now, but Antrim, Westmeath, Dublin. This was a new kettle of fish. Tipperary. He scored 3 points from play. Like, this guy is a future player. He's really, really good. And you have Shane O'Brien coming through the ranks as well. Adam English came off the bench and scored. So the older generation might be aging a small bit, but the newer generation is going and keeping that level up. And it's just unbelievable to see. It really is. Fair play to Tipperary. And I think Shane O'Dowling's comments last night were very, very harsh on Tipperary, saying they were way off because of the goals and stuff like that. Look, it did show you need goals to beat Limerick. And Tip are damn close to doing it by a point. They only lost by a point, and they got goals through Patrick Bonnermar. Jake Morris was an outstanding goal as well. Too little, too late, it ended up being. But look, they needed their shot accuracy to go up. That was the main thing for Tipperary. I think it was 57% overall, which isn't really good enough to beat Limerick. From frees, it was 42%. And that was unusual with looks at Jason Ford and Garrod O'Connor on the pitch. But they have to improve that if they are to beat Limerick. But I will be positive about Tipperary. They have some good players. They have players that will go for goals. And ultimately, they held Limerick in the first half really well. Like, Limerick weren't hurling very well in the first half. There was no doubt about that. But that was mainly down to Tipperary's pressure being exerted on them. So, yeah, you have to give Liam Cahill a lot of credit for that. Like, Craig Morgan had a good performance as well. You had Garrod O'Connor did well from open play. He needs to brush up on the frees. Like, even Jason Ford scored 1-4 from play last night, which was really impressive. So there is positives for Tipperary to take. But for Limerick, they look like a team on a mission. They look like a team primed for a Drive for 5. And yeah, the stat about the subs, all the sub scoring, the subs were Graham Mulcahy, Tom Morrissey, Adam English and Seamus Flanagan all scoring when they came on the pitch. Now, that's scary.
Yeah, no, their strength and depth, to be honest, is frightening. Like, when you consider that, like, a full forward line of Adam English, Donegal O'Dowlig and Shane O'Brien, like, that was still a completely second string full forward line. Like, any of those lads would start for most other county teams in the country. Like, it's unbelievable the strength that they have. I agree with you. They're on their Drive for 5, and I don't see anybody stopping them right now. It's just, I see certain scenarios where they might be caught, and maybe if I was a betting man, I'd throw a cheeky bet on someone stopping them. But if you're telling me life on the line, pick the All-Ireland winners, they always seem to find a way to win. And you'd be brave to pick against them. We'll move on then to this game. Westmeath against Antrim at Cusack Park in Mullingar. Westmeath get a very important victory, 218 to 115. I did pick Westmeath because they'd shown a bit more fight against the Limericks, against the Tipperaries, etc. And they beat Antrim at Cusack Park. Antrim have been hit so hard with players leaving. That's something that we have to keep considering. Keelan Malloy, Neil McManus, like, these guys, you can't just replace them. They are massively important to how Antrim are operating over the last few years. It seems like they're starting to skid a bit. That level that they were maintaining, it seems to be very hard to keep up. Westmeath had their number in this game and picked up a 6-point win.
Yeah, really good win for them. And David Williams again hitting the lights out for Westmeath. And Owen Keys was outstanding in this game. I think he scored 1-2. So really good performance from Westmeath. But Antrim, yeah, they're really, really hit through their injuries, to retirements, to players leaving and things like that. And it's just unfortunate for Darren Gleeson, who built up such a good team. And it looks like whispered is quietly like Carlow doing well in Division 2A at the moment. Like Antrim could be in serious danger of going down. Like even look at Wexford. Wexford have massively improved. I don't think they're going down now. Dublin a bit too good for any team at the moment. Like look at their performance today. Westmeath aren't there, so you have Carlow basically, and they're winning every game in Division 2A. And confidence is a big thing. Antrim have lost every game. Carlow have won every game. So
and they're off the back of the John McDonagh Cup as well. Like it's their trajectory is up. Antrim's trajectory is down. You tend to pass each other out on the way.
And it looked for some time that Antrim would be up there contending with the likes of Dublin and Wexford, and rightly so. There was very good performances and things like that, but like it's just a matter of what if Keelan Malloy sticked around, what if Neil McManus didn't retire and things like that. And Antrim would be in a better place than they are right now. They hammered Westmeath in the Leinster Championship last year, and look at them now. So
I remember even 2021. I remember they beat Clare in the league opener. Do you remember that? And then they drew at Wexford, and they took Dublin to an inch of our lives every time we go up to Corrigan Park. Like even in Parnell Park, they really pushed us. And I remember thinking that year, we weren't going to beat Antrim in the Leinster Championship. It's sad to see it skid a little bit. I hope they can turn it around, because I think it would be fantastic for hurling if we had a really good Antrim team. It would be fantastic for hurling to have Antrim's population, Casement Park being rebuilt, to have Antrim really engaged in hurling and Gaelic games. It would be fantastic for the association. So I really hope they can turn around. But as you said, fair play to Westmeath. David Williams to the fore again. He's been in magnificent form for Westmeath throughout this league campaign, often in games where they've been really up against it. Williams has never let his performances drop. One team that had a bad performance, did up a little bit, but still didn't get the victory, was Dublin. We lost away to Galway. Galway 123, Dublin 115 at Pearse Stadium. Galway confirmed their spot in hurling's top division for next season after beating Dublin in a feisty encounter. There was 11 yellow cards shown and 4 red cards, 4 dismissals. Galway finished with 12 men. Dublin finished with 14. Galway lost Jack Grealish to 2 yellows. Dublin lost Ronan Hayes to 2 yellows. And then Dahi Burke and Conor Whelan were both shown straight reds in the closing stages. Conor Cooney led the way from frees for Galway with 11 points. This is the key stat. At half-time, it was 110 to 1-8 in favour of Galway. Very even contest. Then from the 48th minute to the 73rd minute, Dublin went scoreless. You can't do that.
Yeah, exactly. And it was almost like the emotions got the better of Dublin in many ways. Like it was by the looks of it anyway, it was an absolute fisticuff of a counter. In fairness, 4 red cards. I think there was 11 yellow cards as well. There was a black card in the first half for Galway, which Donald Burke stuck away the penalty from. So it was definitely a dirty encounter, I will say that, and I will pay good money to watch what actually happened in the game. But yeah, it wasn't good enough, as you mentioned, for Dublin not to score from the 48th minute onwards. And I don't know, is it just a tiredness thing from Dublin? Well, it shouldn't be, because Dublin, the footballers are very, very fit. So why aren't the hurlers that fit? It's a strange one. It really is for Dublin. But Donald Burke coming back in, maybe that's a positive. 1-9, brilliant performance from him. But you can't keep relying on him. That's the big thing for a Dublin point of view. I know Dermot O'Dooling did well at patches in this game, and you also had Ronan Hayes when he was on the pitch actually caused a few problems. But like Galway, it was an eventful day for them. Conor Whelan scored a goal and got a straight red card. So very rarely that happens, but will we move? But yeah, it's a good win for Galway. I know they're guaranteed to be in Division 1A next year, and it was comfortable enough. But for a while there, looked to be tight. But you said during the week Seamus would be hammering. I said it'd be close enough. Like Dublin would put up a fight. In fairness, you have to admit, Seamus, they did put up a fight today. But the last few minutes just wasn't good enough. Maybe it was just an energy thing. Maybe they were just tired, but they have to move on to the next game now. Brush this loss under the carpet and move on.
Yeah, it was almost like somewhere between the both that they did show fight, but still an 8-point win for Galway. And as the game was coming towards its close in that period where Dublin went scoreless, Galway made them pay for it and hit 9 points in a row. So Galway really put their foot down in that period as well. One other bit of news that Henry Shefflin dropped was the return of Johnny Glynn to the Galway panel. He's back in, of course. He was part of the All-Ireland winning team in 2017. 2018 was the biggest year that I saw Galway really use Johnny Glynn. Like, I remember Donoghue really prioritised using him at full forward because he's such a towering figure. And I remember, like, it was very much their game plan to hit long ball into Johnny Glynn as quick and as fast as possible. He's back in now with Galway. What do you make of that news?
I think it's a big coup for Galway, in fairness. Like, he is big and strong, and the fact he could go for 70 minutes and things like that. He went for the football last year for New York. He did very well in midfield for them. So, you know, he has the energy even without some years under his belt for Galway. So I think it's a massive coup for them. And to have him in full forward or have him in the half forward line, I think it's a massive feat for them, in fairness. And you do have other forwards like Conor Cooney on farm. Conor Williams is the top scorer from play at the championship last season. And you still have Evan Nyland there. So there are good forwards in Galway. Like, you have Liam Collins coming through the ranks as well. So, yeah, Galway are in a good place at the moment in terms of forward. But it does put an extra bit of pressure on them now to win a Leinster title. They haven't done so since 2018. It's a start. Grandest about for Galway. And the fact that Johnny Glynn's coming back, it puts a lot of pressure on them to win that Bob O'Keefe Cup.
Yeah, it does. And there's certainly a lot of pressure on Henry Shefflin to win the Bob O'Keefe Cup as well with Galway, and the way that they lost it last year as well means that people won't stop putting that pressure on Galway until the final whistle is blown and they have won the Bob O'Keefe Cup for the first time since 2018. We're going to move on now. Just before I'll give my take on Johnny Glynn, I think it just brings a new dimension to them. I think it's another option that they have him there. Should they require him, they have the long ball option again. They have the option of a big man in the square that they can fire the ball in on top of, should they require it. Zakul says, Brave Limerick. Greetings from Mexico. Great commentaries. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for watching from Mexico. Big love to Mexico, as always. We're going to carry on now to the Camogie League's Division 1A Round 3. And the first game which really jumps out, this one, not such a happy memory for Cork. This one, Tipperary with a surprise victory at Porky Rin. The late goal by Emer McGrath gave Tipperary a stunning victory over the All-Ireland champions. The other goal came from Niamh Tracy. Cork were a little bit over-reliant on Amy O'Connor in this. She finished with 1-6, and Tipperary leave with the win.
And to add on to that as well, Cork only scored 1-3 from play. They had a 39% shot accuracy, which isn't really good enough. I know Cork have a lot of levels to go up on, and they do have players sticking around, but they just have to put this as a bad day at the office. Fair play to Tipperary, very good performance from them. And they were behind for long periods of the game until Emer McGrath's goal in late on in the second half. And then Niamh Tracy just sealed it with a plum afterwards. But they scored 2-7 for play out of their 2-10, only 3 frees. So really, really impressive performance from Tipperary, to be fair to them. 57% shot accuracy was really, really good. And as well as that, 7 different scores for the Premier, which is really good for Dennis Kelly's side, I have to say. And they look like serious contenders to be in the semi-final or final towards the end of the season. Even Cueva Mar scoring 2 points, Clodagh McIntyre excelling at wing back. You have Roisin Howard, you have Mary Burke, Cueva McCarthy all scoring in this game. And they did it without Caught Van and Cara Kennedy in the first half. She came on in the second half to add a bit of oomph to the team. But to be fair, Tipperary did really, really well. And fair play to them for getting the win in this game. But for Cork, it's just a bad performance and a bad day at the office. They have to brush it under the carpet now. They only scored 1-3 from play, only 3 different scores from play as well. Amy O'Connor, Orla Mullins and Clodagh Finn, which isn't really good enough from a Cork point of view. So they have to just forget about it now, just move on to the next game. They have 2 wins out of 3, which isn't a bad record, but they move on to the next game now, winning for a win. But fair play to Tipperary again, brilliant win for them. And maybe with a confidence booster for them to maybe go on a surge towards maybe an All-Ireland Camogie final or at least a semi-final.
Well, that's it. And like we were talking about this, when it comes to Waterford and Tipperary, like a victory over any of the traditional big three of Galway, Kilkenny, and Cork, it's invaluable. It's invaluable for your mentality. It's invaluable for the belief in the squad that you are achieving something good. Because we always talk about that when managers come in. What's the point that you really believe in what you're doing? It's always when they beat a big team for the first time that they think, okay, we're on to something here. Tip going away to Páirc Uí Rinn and beating the All-Ireland champions is a massive victory for them in their confidence in themselves and how they feel going forward. And to do it without Cortavan as well, to do it without their all-star forward and who was their most important forward last year, it shows that they aren't too over-reliant on her as well. Emer McGrath is fantastic. I mean, what a year she's had, winning the Ashburn Cup and now leading her county to this victory. Like, she's off to a flyer. Another team that had a great win at the weekend was the All-Ireland finalists, Waterford. They beat Clare by 216 to 8 points in Fraher Field. Goals from Mairead O'Brien and Niamh Rocket got hers in the 40th minute. They turbocharged the Daisha to a comprehensive victory over the Banner County in Fraher Field. Waterford picking up a much-needed victory. Clare remain rooted to the bottom of the table, unfortunately, starting to look a bit dire for them.
Yeah, I was probably expected, wasn't it, that Waterford would win the game by 14 points. I think it's just more damning on Clare, to be honest with you. And yeah, they're really reliant. It's well documented at this stage. They're too reliant on the likes of Lorna McNamara, even Anya O'Loughlin, like Zian Spillane as well. But clearly more scores to get up to the levels of Waterford and Tip, in fairness. But then again, like, look at the other 5 teams in the division. You have Waterford, Tipperary, and the big 3 as well, Galway, Kilkenny, and Cork. So realistically, are Clare going to get to that level? To be fair, they brought Cork to extra time, I think, 2 years ago in the Munster final. So back then, they weren't too far away. It's just about getting the belief back into them, but it didn't look that way now yesterday. It was just a tough defeat to take. As for Waterford, like, you have Mairead O'Brien and Niamh Rocket, and on Mairead O'Brien as well. She scored 3 goals in the LGFA Division 1, and she's now scored a goal in the Camogie League. Dual players, man, they're absolutely going to the well and back, and what a performance. And she's another Ashburn Cup winner, of course. She scored 2 goals in the final as well, 2 goals and a point. So, like, Mairead O'Brien is having one of the years of her life as well. You have Niamh Rocket up there, Beck Hart, I'm sure, had a very good game yesterday, and Lorraine Bray as well. So, yeah, really good result for Waterford. And Jory Wallace, 2 wins out of 3. Good start for him.
Yeah, no, certainly. And Waterford bounced back as well from that disappointing result. One team that had a great result, and we both weren't sure that they were going to do this, was Galway. They beat Kilkenny 112 to 9 points in Loughrea. A cagey first half, finished 4 points each, but it was Galway who pushed on in the second half. Aoife Donoghue's goal gave them a turbo boost, and further points by Siobhan McGrath and Niamh McPeak were crucial. The tribeswomen beating the Cats in a clash between 2 of the traditional big 3. That's big for Cathal Murray's side.
Massive win. And a lot of questions were made about the Galway team. How will they do without the likes of Sarah Durbin, Niamh Kilkenny, Heather Cooney, like outstanding players there. But they proved Aoife Donoghue in midfield. She could be the missing piece for Galway that they've been looking for. Like, really good performance from her, scoring 1-1 from midfield. And seems to be probably the leader in this Galway team now. The likes of Niamh Kilkenny and Sarah Durbin are gone. So she will be massive this season. Cara Dolan did very well in the freeze. Siobhan McGrath did well. Niamh McPeak, as you mentioned there. And of course, yeah, Cathal Murray, he's a good manager. He's been there for a number of years now for Galway, and a very good win for them. Slightly concerning for Kilkenny. A lot of people were talking about them maybe as the close challengers to Cork, but they're missing a good few players like Miriam Walsh. I'm not sure what's the story there. Is she going to come back into the team? They did have good players yesterday, like Steffi Fitzgerald at centre forwards, and obviously Aoife Doyle there, a corner forward, but it doesn't seem to be clicking for Kilkenny or Pat Chapclear at the moment, and something needs to be fixed fast. Like, 1 win out of 3 isn't really good enough for a Kilkenny team, so they need to get back up the horse fast. But for Galway, brilliant result for them, and unexpected in many ways.
Yeah, no, I do agree with you. I think, look, Kilkenny, they've lost a couple of games that maybe they might have hoped to get points out of. They still have to face the likes of Clare and everything like that I would be expecting them to win those games. If they start dropping points in those games, I think we can look at it and go, okay, something's not clicking here. But until then, it is early in Chapclear's reign. We'll see what goes on. But usually there is a bit of a bounce as well when a new manager comes in. But Like, time will tell how that fares. We'll then wrap up the 3 games that happen in Camogie League's Division 1B round 3. Dublin beat Limerick at Parnell Park 114 to 9 points. Dublin bouncing back after the Wexford defeat with back-to-back wins over Kerry and now Limerick, beating them by 8 points in Parnell Park. That's pretty good going.
Yeah, it really is a really unexpected results, and fair play to Dublin for doing this, because Limerick actually hit the lights out in the last 2 games, and for Dublin to beat them by that margin, it's impressive and really is. Like Ashley Mara, I was hearing, had a very good game again yesterday. It's a tough defeat to take for Limerick. Like, good wins over Down and another good win at the start of the league campaign against Kerry, but it just fell flat on their face now this week. And look, they have to get back on the horse sooner rather than later. But for Dublin, 2 wins out of 3. After the Wexford game, it was considered all doom and gloom. But after 2 wins on the bounce now against Kerry and Limerick, it seems to be going slowly but surely back out the up for Dublin again.
Yeah, no, it's definitely like we should have won those games, you could say. Like, that, the home advantage against Limerick was something that probably tipped it slightly in our favour, but to win it like that is very, very impressive. Wexford continue to win as well. 2-11 to 5 points they beat down by Ballycran. So not only are Wexford able to put up a big score in a win at home, but they're also able to go on a difficult away trip away to Ballycran, pick up a tidy victory against Down and continue on their winning ways. They're on a one-way ticket out of this division for sure.
They are, and we talked about Ciara O'Connor over the last few weeks being brilliant for Wexford. They had another player to step up in this game. Shelley Keogh got 2-2 in this game, so brilliant performance from her. Ciara O'Connor had a very good performance as well. You have Emma Tompkins performing well over the last few weeks too. So Wexford, 3 wins out of 3. It was expected that they would be down eventually, but they did it. They're 3 wins out of 3 now, and they look at a good place at the moment. And we mentioned they got close to Kilkenny last year in the All-Ireland Championship. Like, Wexford seem to be on the way back, and they might be a team that everybody has to take seriously.
They certainly are. Like, when you look at how they're progressing through the ranks, they look like they have that aura of them that they are just ready to go to the next level. Do you get what I mean? Like, we've seen it across the 4 codes. We've seen it with the Meath LGFA team that when they won the intermediate, like, you knew they were not only going to get up to senior, but they were immediately going to compete at senior. You saw it with Derry when they got promoted out of Division 2. You knew fine well they weren't going to go up to Division 2 and, try to survive. You knew full well that Derry were going to push to try and win the Division 1 football on the men's side. You knew that they were going to immediately be one of the contenders. Wexford are giving off a similar aura to the Meath LGFA team at 21-22. They're giving off a similar aura to the Derry team in the men's football. And they're also giving off a similar aura to the Kildare team in the LGFA. Kildare, unbeaten in however many games and absolutely smashing it in Division 2 and all-Ireland intermediate champions, and just seem to be, everything is on an upward trajectory. So I'd certainly keep your eye on Wexford and what they achieve over the next couple of years. The team that they mauled, Antrim, I think they scored 12 goals on them last week. All eyes were on them to see if they could bounce back. They did. They beat Kerry 215 to 11 points in Randallstown. This is a massive victory because it just steadies the ship. It steadies it. If they had lost this game, it would have felt like they were really, really falling like a stone.
Yeah, and it was a crucial victory for Antrim. Like, the key thing for them after conceding 12 goals last week, like, that's a cricket score. It's a good siege. Like, that is absolutely really, really poor from them. But the key thing was to bounce back against a decent Kerry side, and they did that, and fair play to them. There was no records of scores and things like that, so I'd imagine, just off the top of my head, Maeve Kelly and Roisin McCormack actually played this game. Katrine Dobbin possibly did as well. It's just a question mark, Seamus. How on earth did they concede 12 goals last week against Wexford? I'm actually not sure. But good win against a decent Kerry team. So Antrim back up on the pedestal. You have to take baby steps before you can run, and that's what Antrim are doing at the moment.
Yeah, no, it definitely was an important one just to get that victory back under the belt, to get back in the win column. Because, as you said, like, a defeat like that at any stage of the year has the potential to derail your whole year. Wexford found it really hard to recover, I found, last year after Clare. This isn't the men's hurling. Wexford found it incredibly hard last year to recover when Clare ate them alive last year. Do you remember that? They scored 6 goals or something? That I felt like they found it really hard to recover after that. It was like they'd lost so much momentum in their team. And then obviously the Westmeath defeat came, and the Dublin, like, they drew with them. They stuttered along and then eventually saved themselves. The fact that Antrim immediately rebounded and got a victory is important, because it means that they put that result in the back of their mind and they just moved on, which shows good leadership, because Antrim have been through a bit of turmoil in the off-season. The manager who took them to the quarterfinal last year, departed in weird circumstances, and it just like it seems like everything's not a-okay behind the scenes, but they definitely pulled out the stops to get this win, and fair play to them on doing that. So yeah, that is the hurling and the camogie wrapped up here on Clare, guys. Thank you to anyone who has tuned in over the hour. Big thank you to you, Matthew, as well, for jumping on again. Guys, that is the episode. Gurmila Mahaguf. Thank you. And until the next one, Torara.